The Mongol Empire, established by the formidable Genghis Khan in the early 13th century, emerged as the largest contiguous land empire in history, spanning from Eastern Europe all the way to the Sea of Japan. The Mongols implemented a very sophisticated governing structure, enhanced trade routes, and developed communication systems across their vast territories. Genghis Khan, along with his successors, adeptly integrated diverse religions, cultures, and technological advancements from the regions they incorporated, which fostered an era of economic prosperity and cultural flourishing. Eventually, the empire fragmented into several khanates, yet the Mongol influence persisted, indelibly shaping the political landscape of Eurasia forever. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, it's good to have you back. Or rather, if you're new here, it's good to meet you. Off to a good start, aren't we? If you are coming back, rather, it's good to have you with me again. Now, if you'd like to support the channel, Patreon links are in the description. Otherwise, liking, commenting, and subscribing really helps get my videos out. So, if, before we begin, you would hit that like button. Thank you very much. And now, without further ado, let's get on to our topic for the day. A history of the Mongol Empire. Let's go back to the beginning. Make yourself comfortable, because this will be a long one. Since the 10th century, the region encompassing Mongolia, Manchuria, and parts of northern China was under the dominion of the Khitan-led Liao dynasty. This rule was disrupted in 1125 when the Jurchen-founded Jin dynasty usurped the Liao, extending their ambitions into Mongolia, which was historically under the influence of the Liao. The ensuing decades witnessed the Jin dynasty, led by rulers known as the Golden Kings, fending off unwanted advances from the Kamag-Mongol Confederation under the leadership of Kabul Khan, who was the great-grandfather of Genghis Khan. Now, the Mongolian plateau itself hosted several potent tribal confederations. Among them included the Mirgid, Nayman, Tatar, Kamag Mongols, and the Karaites. The Jin emperors strategically fostered discord and infighting among these tribes, particularly between the Tatars and the Mongols, with the aim of entangling them in their internal conflicts and diverting their attention from uniting to take on the Jin territories. Now, following Kabul Khan, Ambagai Khan ascended as the leader of the Mongols, but he was betrayed by the Tatars. Then he was captured and handed over to the Jurchen, where he was executed. This betrayal spurred the Mongols to retaliate with raids along the frontier, though a Jurchen counter-offensive in 1143 did not succeed. By 1147, the Jin had shifted their approach, establishing a peace treaty with the Mongols and retreating from several fortifications. This period marked a resurgence of Mongol assaults against the Tatars, driven by a desire for retribution for their former Khan's death, leading to a long period of protracted warfare. However, a significant confrontation in 1161 saw the Jin and Tatar forces collectively teaming up and defeating the Mongols. the ascendancy of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century coincided with unusually mild and wet weather conditions on the typically arid steppes of Central Asia, a rare environmental shift that lasted over a millennia. This climatic anomaly is believed to have precipitated a surge in the population of war horses and other livestock, considerably bolstering the military capabilities of the Mongol forces, setting the stage for their expansive conquests. Of course, among the Mongol shamans, this change in weather and changing conditions was seen as a divine omen. The time for conquest was now. Now, in comes Temujin, who would later be known as Genghis Khan. I'm sure you all know Genghis Khan. If you wanted a video particularly on Genghis Khan, I do have one. And of course, I will give him the importance that is due in this, but the majority of our video will deal with the rule after Genghis Khan. So, Temujin was born into Mongolian nobility, the son of a chieftain, and his ascent to power was meteoric, significantly influenced by his alliance with Togrul Khan of the Kerat, the preeminent Mongol leader of the time, known as Kurtayat, and honored with the Chinese title Wang, or King. Temujin's ambition soon led him to challenge Wang Khan, and upon his victory over Kurtayat, he adopted the name Genghis Khan, signaling the beginning of his expansive dominion. Now, under Genghis Khan's leadership, the definition of Mongol, that word in particular, expanded to encompass all Mongolic-speaking tribes that were now united under his banner. Key to his rise were alliances with influential figures such as Togrul, the Kerat chieftain, his childhood Anda, Jamukha of the Jadran clan, and that we will definitely get back to Jamukha soon. Now, it was these alliances in the early days that proved crucial in the early conquests, including the defeat of the Merkit, from whom he rescued his wife, Borte, and subsequent victories over the Tatars and Naimans. It wasn't all just fighting. He introduced some significant reforms, notably, and rather a strange and novel idea at the time, was the prohibition of looting of enemies without explicit permission, and ensuring the equitable distribution of spoils among his warriors and their family. And this, once of course seen as an equitable measure, but it was also a move that diverged away from the traditional practice of simply using conquest to enrich the aristocracy. This was a more equitable distribution. These policies, however, certainly raised a few eyebrows, and it ignited tensions with his uncles and other aristocratic heirs, who viewed him not as a rightful leader, but as some kind of upstart who's sort of trying to put on boots that are too big for his feet. Of course, this internal strife led to all kinds of defections among his allies, and of course discontent within the ranks themselves. At this point, people didn't quite know what to think. Well, despite all of these challenges, Genghis Khan and his loyalists emerged victorious over rival Mongol factions in a series of conflicts between 1203 and 1205, effectively consolidating his control over the Mongolian plateau. In 1206, at a Kurultai, kind of like a meeting among the Mongol heads, he was proclaimed Khagan of the newly christened Great Mongol State, and he adopted that title of Genghis Khan. This pivotal moment marked the official foundation of the empire, distinguishing his rule not merely as another chapter in tribal leadership, but as the inception of a universal dominion that would profoundly shape the course of history as we know it. Of course, the whole world knows the name Genghis Khan. He revolutionized Mongol military organization by instituting a decimal system for the structure of his forces, ranging from arbans, units of 10, to tumens, units of 10,000. He established the keshig, the imperial guard, which was bifurcated into day divisions and night divisions. In rewarding loyalty, Genghis Khan elevated many of his followers to positions of authority within the army and his household, in a complete disregard of traditional clan hierarchies, viewing things more as a meritocracy. Now, this meritocratic principle extended even to the creation of the Ik-Zasag or Yasa, a legal code that governed the empire's civil affairs, outlawing practices such as selling of women and theft, and even promoting environmental conservation. One must remember that the Mongolian religion was deeply tied to their grassland. Now, his stepbrother, Shikihutuk, was appointed as the empire's chief judge, tasked with maintaining legal records, which further exemplifies Genghis Khan's commitment to law and order. Furthermore, Genghis Khan championed religious freedom, tax exemptions for the needy and the clergy, and fostered trade and literacy. He even introduced the Uyghur script as the empire's writing system, highlighting his appreciation for culture and governance. His reign was marked by military campaigns against neighboring dynasties and powers, including the Jurchen's Jin dynasty and the Tanguts' Western Shah in northern China, as well as interactions with Tibet and Karaktai, reflecting a vast expanse of his engagements. But towards the end of his life, Genghis Khan distributed his empire among his sons and close family, a decision that entrenched the Mongol Empire as a familial oligarchy. This division was not merely an inheritance, but a strategic move to perpetuate the Mongol ruling class, composed of his progeny and the Mongol aristocracy. In notable instances of religious engagement, Genghis Khan invited the Chinese Taoist master Zhou Chuji to Afghanistan, demonstrating his interest in religious matters beyond his own indigenous shamanistic practices, and also once again affirming that general policy of religious freedom that existed within his realm. Now, despite his death in August of 1227, the Mongol Empire's expansion did not stop. Designating Ogedai as his successor, Genghis ensured the empire's leadership remained within his lineage. Ogedai, upon his formal election, initiated campaigns to subdue regions within the Kipchak-controlled steppes and reasserted Mongol dominance in Manchuria, by overthrowing local regimes. His strategic military endeavors culminated in the fall of the Jin dynasty in 1234, with the siege of Kaifeng and the capture of Taizhou, sealing Jin's fate. The Mongols' victory was partly facilitated by defectors from the Han Chinese and Khitan ranks, who had joined the Mongols against the Jin. Ogedai's conquest extended far beyond East Asia, with his general Chormakan toppling the remnants of the Khwarezmian Empire in Persia and asserting Mongol supremacy over the small Persian kingdoms in the south. However, attempts to incorporate Goryeo Korea met with fierce resistance, showing that there at least was some limit to Mongol expansion. Well, despite all of these challenges, Ogedai's reign saw the establishment of Karakorum as the Mongol capital, a significant development in the empire's administrative and cultural consolidation. Batu Khan, Genghis Khan's grandson, expanded the Mongol presence into the Russian steppes, marking the beginning of Mongol dominance over the Kievan Rus principalities. The siege of Ryazan and the subsequent victory at the Battle of the Sit River exemplified the Mongol military prowess that would eventually lead to the complete subjugation of Kievan Rus. Giovanni de Plano Carpini's account of the devastation in Kiev by the Mongols serves as a stark testament to the widespread destruction that accompanied Mongol conquests. Now, internal dynamics within the Mongol leadership, particularly regarding tensions between Batu Khan and Ogedai's lineage, illustrate an internal political challenge that faced the empire at the time, even as it expanded its territories across all of Asia. Ogedai's campaigns into the Indian subcontinent and the diplomatic maneuvering with Goryeo, that's around Korea, further indicate the Mongol Empire's vast ambitions, but also complex relations with neighboring states. Now, moving on to Europe, the Mongol incursions into there saw their forces pushing into Poland and Hungary, marking a significant phase of their new campaigns. Their rampage through Polish territories prompted a coalition of Poles, Moravians, and Christian military orders, such as the Hospitallers, Templars, and the Teutonic Knights, to take action. This alliance managed a temporary halt to the Mongol onslaught of Legnica. However, the Mongols achieved a decisive victory against the Hungarians and their allies at the Sajo River on April 11, 1241. The advance towards Vienna and northern Albania was interrupted by the death of Ogedai in December of 1241, necessitating the return to Mongolia for a selection of his successor. This event traditionally marks the cessation of Mongol advancements into Central Europe. In the interregnum following Ogedai's demise, his widow, Toragene, assumed control, initiating a period marked by political purges and strategic appointments aimed at consolidating her power base and advocating for her son Guyuk's ascension. Her reign saw significant contributions to the empire's infrastructure and cultural institutions. However, her overt favoritism and persecution of Ogedai's former officials sowed more than a little bit of discord within the Mongol elite. Batu, ruling over the Golden Horde, abstained from attending the Kurultai, citing health and climate concerns. which contributed to a protracted power vacuum and exacerbated factional tensions within the empire. Despite all of these challenges, Guyuk eventually ascended to the throne, heralded by his military reputation and the strategic maneuvering of Turogene. His election was a ceremonial affair that attracted international attention, a global audience even back then. Guyuk's tenure was characterized by efforts to restore the administrative practices of his father, and of course to purge the influence of Torogene's regime, although he did retain some of her loyalists. He pursued aggressive military campaigns in Korea, Song China, and the Islamic world, while undertaking domestic reforms aimed at centralizing authority and combating corruption. Guyuk's rule, however, faced quite a bit of resistance, notably from the Hashashins, yes, the assassins, and some sectors of the empire that contested his legitimacy. His response to these challenges included military campaigns aimed at consolidating Mongol control mainly over Islamic territories. And in 1248, under ambiguous circumstances, Guyuk Khan embarked westward from Karakoram, spurring speculation about his intentions. While some believed he sought reprieve at his estate, Emil, others conjectured aims of joining forces with El-Jigede for Middle Eastern conquest, and a possible confrontation with his cousin Batu Khan in Rus. Sorgak Tanibeke, sensing potential threats to Batu from Guyuk's movement, covertly alerted her nephew. Concurrently, Batu was moving east, possibly to meet Guyuk, but before their forces could converge, Guyuk died under mysterious circumstances, which was rumored to be poison, in Xinjiang. We're not really sure if it's poison, but it certainly seems that way. Now, following Guyuk's demise, his widow, Ogul Kaimish, attempted to helm the empire, but faced opposition from her sons and other princes, highlighting her inability to replicate Torogene's adept leadership. In response to this vacuum, Batu convened a Kurultai with his domain in 1250, an event that was boycotted by the Ogadade and Chagatate families due to its distant location from the Mongol heartland. The Kurultai's offer of leadership to Batu was declined. Instead, he proposed Monkey, a choice that aligned with the pro-Tului faction, yet was marred by the Kurultai's questionable legitimacy due to its attendance and locale. Efforts to solidify Monkey's position involved organizing a more universally recognized Kurultai. Yet Ogul Kemish and the key Ogadate and Chagatate figures remained obstinate, refusing to endorse a Tului descendant as the Great Khan. This resistance shows quite a lot of deep factional divides within the Mongol elite, especially for this time when things were beginning to crack, particularly the insistence that only Ogade's lineage could lay claim to the empire's leadership. A long way from the old meritocracy of Genghis. Well, Monkey's succession was finally cemented at a Kurultai orchestrated by the Songagtani and Berke, signaling a significant transfer of power to Tolui's lineage. Despite partial recognition from certain Oghedate and Chagadate princes, dissent lingered on, notably from Shiramun, who openly plotted against Mongke. The revelation of Shiramun's conspiracy triggered extensive trials, culminating in a sweeping purge of the Mongol aristocracy, a move that decisively curtailed challenges to Mongke's authority. Post-purge, Mongke extended a kind of amnesty. He then redirected confiscated lands, particularly sharing the empire's western territories with the Batu Khan, thereby ensuring the entrenchment of Tolui descendants' supremacy within the Mongol Empire. Mongke Khan exhibited a devout adherence to his forebears' laws, and steered very clear of alcohol, contrasting with previous familial patterns. His reign was marked by religious tolerance, which was not out of step for Mongols, but also a penchant for diverse artistic expressions, facilitating the construction of various religious and cultural edifices within Karakorum. It was this openness that brought Chinese, European, and Persian architectural influences to the Mongol capital, epitomized by the silver tree crafted by a Parisian goldsmith, Guillaume Boucher, symbolizing the Khan's cosmopolitan approach. In terms of administration, Mongke leaned on Muslim and Mongol officials, initiating economic reforms that were aimed at rationalizing government expenditure. These reforms included curbing unauthorized noble privileges, introducing a fixed poll tax, and centralizing monetary control, reflecting a shift towards a more structured governance model. An empire-wide census further underscored this push for administrative efficiency, ensuring a more systematic approach to taxation and military logistics. Strategically, Mongke assigned significant territories to his brothers Hulagu and Kublai, targeting the expansion of Mongol control in Persia and China, while continuing the conflict with the Song dynasty. The military campaigns under Kublai's command in Yunnan and Mongke's efforts in Korea exemplified the Khan's ambition to fully encircle the Song, showcasing the empire's military prowess but also strategic depth and foresight. Mongke's tenure also saw intensified efforts to cement Mongol dominance in Persia, with the prosecution of the Nizari Ismailis and the monumental capture of Baghdad in 1258, which effectively completely dismantled the Abbasid Caliphate and laid bare the path to Syria. This expansion was not without resistance, though, as evidenced by the mixed responses from regional powers, yet the Mongols' military might quite often ensured their supremacy. The Mongol advances into the Middle East and the sacking of Baghdad stand as emblematic to the empire's expansive ambitions under Mongke, and even as they prepared to confront other Muslim states in the region, fighting on all sides. The allegiance of various Christian and Muslim realms to the Mongols further shows the Khan's influence across a vast empire, although the Mongol Empire's engagements were met with varied degrees of opposition and cooperation. In the empire's northwestern reaches, Berke, succeeding Batu, initiated retaliatory campaigns into regions such as Ukraine, Belarus, Lithuania, and Poland. This period also saw growing tensions within the Mongol Empire itself, particularly between disagreements that came up between its northwestern and southwestern segments, as Batu grew weary of Hulagu's incursions into Western Asia, which threatened his influence. The southern expanses of the empire witnessed Mongol Khan at the helm of military campaigns, which, despite the initial successes, were hampered by disease outbreaks among the Mongol ranks. And eventually, the disease got to Mongol, and he died on August 11th, 1259. This loss precipitated a retreat of Mongol forces across the empire to partake in the selection of a new great Khan, signifying yet another critical juncture in Mongol history that necessitated leadership consolidation. Hulagu's subsequent withdrawal from Syria to concentrate forces for the forthcoming Kurultai left his general, Kitbukwa, with a diminished contingent. The strategic retraction presented an opportunity for the region's crusaders and the Muslim Mamluks who, recognizing the Mongols as the paramount threat, entered into an unprecedented period of passive coexistence. Well, the Battle of Ain Jalut in 1260, where Mamluk forces from Egypt decisively defeated Kitbukwa's Mongols, emerged as a defining moment, effectively setting the Mongol Empire's western boundary and preventing further Mongol incursions into the Middle East beyond Syria. Concurrently, Kublai Khan, upon learning of Mongol's demise, opted to press on with his military endeavors in China, rather than return to the capital for the succession debates. In contrast, their younger brother, Arik Bokeh, capitalized on the absence of his siblings to secure the title of the Great Khan for himself in a Kurultai convened in Karakorum. Kublai's subsequent decision to hold his own Kurultai in Kaiping, which garnered significant support against Arik Bokeh, underscored a deepening division that was plaguing the Mongol leadership. Now conflict eventually erupted between Kublai and his brother Arik Bokeh, entangling loyalties from Mongol's administration. Of course, everybody had to take a side. Kublai's military efficiency led to the quick subjugation of Arik Bokeh's followers, gaining him the southern Mongolian administration. Amidst this internal strife, challenges also emerged from the Chagatai faction. Despite an initial setback with the capture and execution of his emissary Abishka, Kublai's strategies led to a blockade of Arik Bokeh, resulting in famine and a temporary capture of Karakorum, although Arik Bokeh briefly regained control. In the Ilkhanate, tensions between Hulagu and their cousin Berke of the Golden Horde continued to escalate, fueled by religious differences and grievances over spoils and conduct. Berke's alliance with the Mamluks against Hulagu underscored yet another deep factional rift that was plaguing the empire. People were certainly at each other's throats at this point, and everybody had to take different sides between the two factions. Well, Hulagu's death in 1264 followed by the deaths of Berke and Algu Khan, once again reshaped the leadership of the empire, with Kublai further consolidating his position through strategic appointments and alliances, including, interestingly enough, an attempt at a Franco-Mongol pact. Okay. Well, Arik Bokeh's eventual surrender to Kublai in 1264 signaled the end of their rivalry. Kublai's focus then shifted to the Song dynasty in southern China, and that led to the establishment of the Yuan dynasty, and also the Sinicization, that means to become Chinese, of his rule to appeal to Chinese subjects. Indeed, just like when Alexander the Great showed up to Persia and began acting Persian, when the Mongols showed up to China, they somewhat began to take on Chinese customs. His move to Khanbalik sparked controversy among Mongols who were wary of his closeness to Chinese traditions. The conquest of the Song dynasty in 1276 underlined the Mongols' unprecedented success in China, complemented by Kublai's cultural and educational advancements. His reign saw extensive empire-building efforts, although expeditions into Southeast Asia, Japan, and other territories were met with mixed outcomes, and we will get to them in other videos. Of course, there's always a limit on people's military reach, despite the vastness of an empire. And you might be thinking, well, what about the Great Wall? Didn't that stop them? Well, kind of. But when you have that many horses, you're effectively a mechanized force. And when you can move a lot faster than everybody else, the wall being effectively there to keep foot barbarians out, well, it doesn't really work as well. Now, following Kublai Khan's era, the Mongol Empire witnessed quite a few transformations. Kublai's grandson, Temur Khan, upheld his grandfather's legacy and maintained the Yuan dynasty's policies. During this period, the Mongol Empire fragmented into more autonomous khanates, including the Yuan dynasty in China and also 3 Western khanates, being the Il Khanate, the Chagatai Khanate, and the Golden Horde, with only the Il Khanate remaining loyal to the Yuan. This division weakened the central authority of the Great Khan, and it marked the shift from the empire's unified command. In 1304, a peace treaty among the khanates recognized the Yuan Emperor Temur's supremacy, and this established a unity, albeit a rather fragile one. The period was known as the Pax Mongolica, Pax meaning peace and Mongolica meaning Mongol. Yes, indeed. Well, it was characterized by stability, hence the name, flourishing trade, and all manner of cultural exchanges across Eurasia. However, its unity was nominal, with each khanate pursuing its own independent trajectory. But that being said, it was a little bit of an easier time to live in general, as we can call the Pax Romana, I believe, the Roman peace. Well, the death of Kaidu led to a peace initiative by the Chagatai ruler Duwa, culminating in a collective acknowledgement of Temur's supremacy in 1304. This peace facilitated trade and cultural exchanges, notably between the Yuan and the Ilkhanate, enhancing connectivity between Asia and Europe. You know, Silk Road stuff. But despite all of this, internal conflicts always persisted. The Toluid Civil War, along with wars between different factions of the empire, such as the Berke Halagu and the Kaidu Kublai Wars, further destabilized the empire. After Kaidu's demise, Dua's peace efforts briefly unified the Mongol realms under Temur Khan's nominal rule. However, each Khanate essentially functioned at this point as its own independent state, with their interactions being diplomatic rather than this grand cooperative military endeavor. The succession of Ghazan in the Ilkhanate marked a pivotal turn towards Islam, and that was going to alter the empire's religious landscape. Nonetheless, Ghazan maintained diplomatic relations with Temur Khan and the Yuan dynasty, emphasizing the political unity of acknowledging the supremacy of the great Khan. Of course, amidst all of this, conflicts and alliances continued to shape the Mongol Empire's vast territories, and they were vast. Its influence extended across Eurasia, albeit through increasingly independent and often competing khanates. The era following Kublai Khan's reign was thus characterized by both the maintenance of Mongol power and the onset of fragmentation, leading to the distinct evolution of each Khanate. And I believe that is effectively where the Mongol Empire really ends. When it becomes fragmented into different kingdoms, each of those kingdoms begin to have their own objectives, their own goals. They make their own alliances, but they also have their own problems. You have the ones all the way in the east, they've got their own people to fight. And all the way in the west, well, they've got the Muslims and the Crusaders, and the other barbarians, whatever else they encounter. What does something in the Yuan dynasty in Song China have to do with them? Eventually, I think, many of the Mongols, out there so far, far away from the grassland, forgot who they were. But you, listener, will not forget to like and subscribe. And leave your comments down below. I'd like to thank my patrons, Stark Factory, Jeffrey, and JC, 3 mega chads. Thank you very much, lads. And if you would like to support the channel, besides liking and subscribing, well, perhaps you'd follow the links to the Patreon and check it out. But till next time, most importantly, look after yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.